evening, race fans, and welcome to coverage of the Esports Racing League Premier Series from Podium Esports Live on the ERL Twitch channel. Today, we come to you from Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth, Texas. James Pike here alongside Justin Prince and Ryan Bauer up in the production booth way up above us as we get set for the sixth round of action of the spring season for the ERL Premier Series. And Justin, I think if there's one thing that we got the chance to see over the course of the past week at Texas, regardless of whether or not it was open races or whether or not it was fixed races or whether or not it was the Pro Invitational Series or what have you, the one thing that I think stayed consistent as far as keys to a good lap time here at Texas Motor Speedway, hands down, I think you have to look at your exit out of turn 2. That run that you get off the corner and how you tackle that, especially over a green flag run, will make or break your lap here.
Absolutely, because it's so important to be able to maintain momentum around this racetrack. A couple different drivers have taken different approaches. Some have chosen to go about half a lane up off the bottom. Others protect the white line the whole way around 1 and 2 in that 20 degrees of banking to try and power their way down the back straightaway. It's about preference and about the conditions for the racetrack that help you prepare you for that. But overall, there's another constant on top of that, James, and that hold on to the bottom the whole way around or else you'll be freight trained.
It is something that you'll see. It is possible to carry momentum on the top side, but it's very dependent on whether or not you can get the driver underneath you arrow loose, which is possible in 3 and 4, a little bit more difficult to do in 1 and 2. Well, after they reconfigured this track, the banking is a little bit lower over in turns 1 and 2 than it is in 3 and 4. And it makes it more difficult to carry momentum on that high lane. You'll have to stay down to the bottom to get the optimum lap time as we go throughout the course of the evening here at Texas. It's time to bring in the starting grid and tell you where your favorite driver will begin tonight's race. And we start with Kyle Smalley in the 42 machine, who sets the fast time with the 29.149 to take top spot here. Blake Reynolds will start from the second spot. Third will be Jimmy Mullis in the 46 machine. Brandon McKissick in the 87 will start fourth. Fifth will be the 8 of Braxton DeWeese. Zach Novak in the 90, the defending eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion, will start sixth. Ryan Kendrick rolls off from the 7th position. Eighth will be the 24 of Nick Olson. Greg McConey starts from 9th, and Andrew Ramos rolls off from the 10th position.
11th position is where you can find Anthony Alfredo tonight in the 21 machine. He'll start alongside Nicholas Hughes in P12. The following row features Alex Bell and Kobe Wells, with Bry Earl Pratt coming off his victory at Homestead Miami Speedway, starting deep in the field in 15th. Lucas Cram starts in 16th tonight, with John Midget in 17th. Steve Durham starts 18th, rounding up the top 20, Alec Chamberlain, and Team Dylan Esports' business director, Austin Craven.
Roger Gregory is the final man to start tonight's race as we take a look at our track facts. This is Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth, Texas, the gleaming, glittering palace that was the grand design and the great big plan that Bruton Smith had back in the 90s when NASCAR was expanding from coast to coast. This was his Palace of Speed that opened in 1997 and originally had a capacity of 160,000 people. It's a 1.5 mile, 2.4 kilometer quad oval with 20 degrees of banking in turns 1 and 2 and 24 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4. Tonight we race on iRacing Day, the default day in the service, May 15, 2020 in Sim time. It's just after 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Tonight we go for 55 laps, 82.5 miles or 132 kilometers, and we have 3 attempts at a green-white checker finish. As the cars begin to roll off of pit road, Justin Prince, you saw so much in Texas in the past week. What are you looking forward to? What do you expect out of these drivers as they take to this mile and a half?
I think we're going to see a lot of craziness for the lead today and a lot of protecting the bottom, because if you allowed anyone to get underneath you down the back straightaway with that momentum we just discussed moments ago off turn 2, it would be like a revolving door in many races into turns 3 and 4 for the lead or second. I expect that to be the case tonight for the first 15-20 laps.
I have to believe you're probably right about that. Also of note here, for the first time this evening, we've got some of the Sportsman drivers who have been granted access up into the Premier Series. So here's their chance to go and be part of the broadcast here tonight as Kyle Smalley gets ready to lead them down pit road, and we take off and we are under green here at Texas.
And a good launch for everybody, well, except for Austin Craven, because the 30 car is in the grass. No caution flag, though. The rest of the field off to a good start here.
Decent start for everybody as they take off, and Kyle Smalley is the one who will carry them to the front, along with Austin Craven, who is stuck there after wrecking down right near the start-finish line on the start. Didn't get a good jump of things, and so Smalley will lead Blake Reynolds and Brandon McKissick down to the stripe as they complete lap 1.
And you've seen right there from the first lap, Smalley knows that if he allows anyone to get underneath him, then he's at risk of losing multiple positions. But drivers like Reynolds, they're going to be aggressive today. They will not be afraid to go all the way down to the bottom of the racetrack to make some of these passes, because at Texas, that's the way you try and move forward on these short runs, especially what we've seen in the Pro Invitational.
If you can try and get down to the bottom and get underneath somebody, as we see there goes Braxton DeWeese looking underneath Jimmy Mullis trying to take the spot. Nick Olson also in pursuit of the 46 as well, and Mullis actually is going to have to fight off a few more folks, because here comes Zach Novak with a big move down to the inside, but Olson throws the block on the defending eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion.
And some aggressive moves side by side for third position just up the road as well. DeWeese able to get underneath Brandon McKissick. And the 87 now drops back. That's also seen Nick Olson trying to be very aggressive too. Nearly got underneath the quarter panel of Jimmy Mullis. And this is something that's interesting here, James, at this racetrack with the aggression level. The more you fight, the more it burns up the tires, yes, but it's about throttle control 1 and 2. You can go near full throttle 3 and 4.
And I think throttle control on exit out of 2 as Blake Reynolds looks to the inside of the 42 of Smalley with the race lead and went all the way down to the grass to try and make that pass happen, and may well just complete the pass going into 1. Blake Reynolds now to the point, but it's all about this exit out of 2 and how you take care of business as Smalley gets the crossover on Reynolds and will be to the inside of the 3 going into turn 3, racing side by side for the lead once again.
Too much throttle that time for Reynolds. He's done this a couple times to the Coca-Cola machine. And Smalley, just like that, have the more momentum, has the race lead once more. Reynolds doesn't even get credit for the lead lap, but again takes away the bottom for the race lead.
Continues to jump down to the race lead and will try and hold off Smalley, who jumps up to the top side. Now here comes Braxton DeWeese in the 8, who's taking advantage of these two going to the nail. Look at that big move by DeWeese to get to the inside of Smalley. As Smalley tried to cross up Reynolds, it was DeWeese who was able to cross up Smalley and take over the second spot.
And that was a perfect opportunity right there, DeWeese. I'm glad he took that chance. It's been shown that if you are too patient here at Texas, somebody else is going to be aggressive. DeWeese, he's going on the attack. He's got a fast race car. And now Reynolds knows he has to play defense. Looks like he's going to swipe across the nose.
He'll sweep across the nose, try and make it happen. Reynolds there, now holding off to Weiss and McKissick. Meanwhile, pretty good battle a little bit further back. Nick Olson looking to the inside of Brandon McKissick, trying to take over that 4th spot, but nothing doing at the moment. In the meantime, Reynolds to the inside of DeWeese, who is now right there for the race lead with the Team Dillon Esports driver of that Coca-Cola Chevy Camaro.
Yeah, they are fighting like cats and dogs over this racetrack at the moment, all the way to the inside safer barrier for 4th position. But DeWeese has the preferred line to be able to take away the lead. Smalley's going to work with them. Near contact, Reynolds gets him loose.
Reynolds getting loose, and there goes DeWeese hard to the outside wall. Zach Novak has nowhere to go. Jimmy Mullis has nowhere to go. Yellow flag out. Briar LaPrade, I think, got swept up towards the back of the field. But everybody all over the place as those two jumped around and ended up in trouble at the end of this. And we'll take a look at the replay and see what happened. It was DeWeese and Blake Reynolds who made contact coming out of turn 4. They were already a little bit sideways on corner exit. DeWeese came up. Looks like Reynolds came down. They were both racing for the same real estate, and those two come together. DeWeese finally goes and loops it around, and Zach Novak just drills the 8 at full speed. Jimmy Mullis had absolutely nowhere to go behind his teammate, so both Richmond Raceway Esports cars in trouble for the 2nd week in a row. Nothing they could have done about that. Briar LaPrade actually was able to sneak through everything, and then as the 90 car comes up the track, looks like the 51 machine of Ryan Kendrick got a little bit of damage to the left side of his Toyota Camry, and he ended up smacking the wall just on the entry into turn 1.
Yeah, that's exactly it right there. The drivers up towards the front were being so defensive that that level of aggression just collided with one another, so to speak. But now it's a case where everyone's going to be able to pit. That's the bright spot. The downside is a lot of drivers with high points positions into today's race, James, are going to now fall downward in the standings because of this. Novak and Deweese were amongst some of the drivers in the top 10 entering tonight.
Some of these drivers going to lose a little bit in the point standings. Meanwhile, what kind of damage does Blake Reynolds have in his number 3 machine? I think that may be the biggest question of all. Novak has already pulled it behind the wall. In the meantime, everybody else coming down pit road for what should be 4 tires and fuel.
Yeah, and some of these drivers, I have to say, are lucky that they got through with the damage they did. Reynolds, just a little tiny bit of left front nose damage. I'd be concerned a little bit about it being pushed up just a touch. It might affect some of the straight line speed here, and it might open up the door for the lead, as well as a good pit exit. McKissick with the best launch.
McKissick with a really good launch. He gets out in front and gets ahead of everybody as McKissick wins the battle off pit road over Kyle Smalley and Blake Reynolds, who drops back to 3rd. Greg Riccone and Brian LaPrade, last week's winner at Homestead, Miami, that 19 car, now up into 4th and 5th. As they continue to roll under the yellow flag, plenty of action coming your way here on the iRacing World and the Podium Esports Network and iRacing's platforms as well. So much to talk about over the next week, as it will be for the next few weeks while we work our way through this situation. But it all starts this week on Friday night, April 3rd, 8 p.m. Eastern. The Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series takes to Road Atlanta, where they race the 911 GTLM machines to try and figure out who's going to be the fastest around that fantastic road course in Braselton, Georgia. And you can see that over on the iRacing Esports Network. Been a big weekend for iRacing with IndyCar and NASCAR. The Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama will take place Saturday afternoon, April 4th on NBCSN. So IndyCar ends up on TV for the first time in the past few weeks. And then Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m., it's the 3rd week of the eNASCAR Pro Invitational iRacing Series from Bristol Motor Speedway, and that'll be at 1 p.m. on Fox, Fox Sports 1, and the Fox Sports app. And also announced Justin Prince heat races coming up for that race on Sunday afternoon. So Saturday night's going to be a little bit busy, I think, from Thunder Valley.
Yeah, it's going to be very busy, especially for the drivers of the Xfinity Series, the Gander Outdoors and RV Truck Series, as well as the many other divisions of NASCAR to fight under the lights in the ARCA cars. It's going to be interesting, absolutely, James, for this one, for that one at Bristol.
Should be very entertaining to see how it's going to play out. As the lights are off for the pace car, it will be McKissick, then Smalley, Reynolds, McConey, LaPrade, Alfredo, Alex Bell, John Midget, and Lucas Cram, and then Alec Chamberlain. Your top 10 here at Texas as we get set to go green flag racing once again. Restart to come on lap 13 of 55 as we shall see what McKissick and Smalley can do up front. McKissick, though, the control car on the bottom, so he'll have the say-so on when we get going green flag racing. And also, we'll have to keep an eye on the damage on Blake Reynolds' machine and see how that affects him in that number 3 car. A home game for Reynolds, the Houston, Texas native, going to try and get a win at his home track as we go back under the green flag at Texas. McKissick and Smalley side by side, door to door through 1 and 2 for the first time, and you see the inside start to pick up that momentum. Justin Prince, as here comes Blake Reynolds to the outside of the 87.
Side by side, down the back straight away, near 3 wide, just behind them. McKissick doing a good job so far, playing defense, but look who's coming up to second. Ryan Pratt has quietly moved his way up 13 positions to second. He wants the race lead and wants it now.
He got into McKissick a little bit on quarter entry and just moved him out of the way just enough to get underneath the number 87 machine. So Brian LaPrade now to the point. Here comes Kyle Smalley underneath McKissick to try and get second. Blake Reynolds trying to maybe shoot the gap in the middle to get a few spots. Meanwhile, here comes the 15 of Alex Bell to the inside of the 3 car.
And you have to keep an eye on Bell. He accidentally hit the back end of Alfredo's car during the caution flag and crushed in his front nose. He might have some air temperature issues in the dirty air. Looking like he's got some good suck, though, in the 15 car running the bottom side. 4P number 3, Lucas Graham wants to work with him.
Lucas Graham now trying to push along a few more drivers. In the meantime, LaPrade now in front by maybe a car length or two. The 87 of McKissick gets loose. Here comes the 44 of Graham, who's had plenty of success in the ERL Sportsman Division on Monday nights. Already a multiple-time winner in that series this season. Trying to take his talents from Monday nights and apply them to Wednesday nights. And all of a sudden, Lucas Graham, who, by the way, started in 16th, already up to 4th. Now looking for 3rd as LaPrade got loose in the corner. And now Kyle Smalley goes back to the point.
This is a problem for Old Pratt. If you lose the bottom here, you have the chance of losing spots. Trouble behind them. McConey gets turned. 4-car pile up on the outside wall. Caution flag.
McConey got turned, and we'll bring up the replay momentarily. It was Nick Olson that got into the 16. He just tried to get down to the inside, and there just wasn't enough room there. McConey, I guess, left the door open a little bit. Olson forced the issue. Those two come together. McConey's the one that gets sideways, and then Olson got run over from behind in the accordion by John Midget in the 11 machine. Those three go up together. Anthony Alfredo gets some damage. I think the 45 may have just snuck through this. A very nice job by Colby Wells to avoid the damage on the inside lane. And the 7 machine as well caught up in this. Andrew Ramos was swept up in his Ford Mustang, so he picks up damage as a part of this wreck as well.
Anthony Alfredo, too, was barely able to avoid that one as well, but might have got some significant front nose damage and all that as well, James. Just, it's the type of situation where, again, you don't want to lose the bottom, but at the same time, you see a lot of aggression pop up. Olsen was being aggressive. That was the cause. We had Lucas Graham, though, stay out on the racetrack.
Lucas Graham did stay out on the racetrack with 7-lap-old tires, so Graham will be the leader when we go back green flag racing. Austin Craven comes down pit road, or actually no, Craven's going to stay out as well. So the 30 machine now out there with Lucas Graham, and they're ahead of everybody else. Those two will control the front row on the next restart. The question now will be, can Kyle Smalley beat everybody else out of pit road? And survey says by inches, and maybe not just. It'll be tight, but no, Alex Bell got him at the line. So a great pit stop for the 15 machine. Alex Bell beats Kyle Smalley and wins the race off pit road over Smalley, LaPrade, and Brandon McKissick in the 87.
Yeah, you have to remember here at Texas Motor Speedway, this is one of the longest pit exits, technically, in the entire iRacing service on the ovals, because it's not where the white lines are. It's where the yellow line is with the green cones, and that's exactly where Bell was able to time it up and take advantage, knowing that it seemed that his competitor was sleeping. Kyle Smalley, in fact, I think sped trying to get ahead of him and is now having to drop back.
And then you have to run it all the way back, and Smalley, who had that great spot on pit road off of the great qualifying effort, ends up speeding on exit, which is pretty tough to do from that one stall. But in either case, the 42 machine going to have to slide all the way to the tail end of the longest line and should restart somewhere around, I think, 15, 16, 17, somewhere in the ballpark up.
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. As soon as you realized Bell was starting to pass by him here, James, he just floored it straight to 51 miles an hour. You're going to get clipped every single time you go that quickly here at Texas.
Tend to agree with you on that. You're going to be right more often than not about that point, as lights are off on the pace car once again, and we get set for a little bit more racing in Texas to come on lap number 20 of 55. It will be Cram, then Bell, LaPrade, McKissick, Reynolds, Wells, Craven, Mullis, Hughes, Gregory, your top 10 as everybody comes through and tries to get their car fixed up. And Mullis, I suspect, might not necessarily have the cleanest of cars, but he's still got something, to be fair, which, quite frankly, given the damage that his teammate Zach Novak received in that incident a little bit earlier ago with Braxton Weiss, is a better position to be in than you could choose from in some of the other cases here.
I'm honestly surprised Mullis is still running on this racetrack and was able to find a brand new hood, because that's what a lot of the damage was in his race car. when he was involved in the first caution flag. But surprisingly, that car was pretty spiffy in terms of speed and aggression. Most surprisingly, I think, got away with a lot of potential damage. It's the matter, though, of how that car runs. Keep in mind, too, you might notice a bit of topside damage on that race car, James. That's in part, remember, because of the cars coming around and on top of him, and that's a rare amount of scrapes you can get on the hook, on the roof.
One of the very, very rare ones indeed. Adding a little bit of, maybe, shall we call it cherry vanilla flavor to the Coke Energy car? Maybe, just maybe, Blake Reynolds, who's right in front of them, who's been running the cherry vanilla Coca-Cola paint scheme over the past few races in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, might have something to do about that.
Maybe. Just a little bit, maybe. Reynolds is still having to deal with a little bit of damage, though, but he might try and go and do something here in just a few moments here, because there's a lot of cars that were surprisingly quick despite damage, like Bell with that front nose. It could be very aggressive to see who goes and leads coming off the corner, especially with Cram on older tires.
Not totally certain how this is going to pan out, as it will be Cram, Bell, LaPrade, McKissick, Reynolds, Wells, Mullis, Hughes, Gregory, Durham, your top 10, coming back to the restart, which should come on lap 21 of 55. So almost halfway through this race, Justin Prince, and these drivers now trying to assert themselves at the front of the field, and maybe more importantly, avoid getting into incidents that would cause them damage to their machines.
Yeah, they need to play nice and smart here. There's still a lot of laps to go and a lot of potential possibilities. Great launch for the green flag, though, side by side to the stripe.
Really good launch there for Lucas Cram. Really poor launch for Brandon McKissick at the 87, who will drop behind Blake Reynolds and be no best than fifth in line as they all get down to single file very quickly. I think the question now is, what can Briar LaPrade do? And it won't be a contest. All that nose damage to Alex Bell's 15 Chevy Camaro, I think, is going to hinder that car just a little bit as LaPrade goes to the inside with that clean number 19, the Ledford Billiard Supply Toyota Camry, trying to go for 2 wins in as many weeks as he now stalks the rear bumper of the 44 of Lucas Cram.
And an aggressive move by Bell to block McKissick. They got close in that situation. Well, remember, Cram on 4 lap older tires completely missed the bottom side. Here comes the freight train.
Absolutely nothing Blake Reynolds could have done in that situation. He went to the top side to try and get around Alex Bell and found himself stuck behind the 15. And it might be in Reynolds' best interest to drop in line here, because Jimmy Mullis is coming with a big head of steam out of turn 4 to get alongside that 3 machine. And I don't know if Reynolds is going to have the opportunity to get down there before Mullis draws even with the 3. Meanwhile, it's Briar LaPrade who's jumped out in front of Alex Bell for the race lead as they exit turn 2 and come onto the backstretch.
I think that damage is really going to hurt Bell's chances of trying to make a pass for the race lead here, but I'm surprised Mullis has still got some decent speed. Has to check up, though. Reynolds really had to get off the gas, might have clipped the apron just a touch in his Chevrolet Camaro, and is still able to keep it straight and side by side for the 4th position, just barely.
Everybody's still trying to keep it all in one piece. LaPrade there, Bell there, McKissick regroups back to 3rd. Cram now sliding high on the top side with those older tires. He's falling back, and Blake Reynolds has jumped ahead of that 44 and is up at a P4.
Some great battling amongst the front drivers. Still, Cram now cycled out to 5th position. But it becomes the question, what's going to happen for the race lead? Bell to the grass, nearly got into LaPrade, able to save it. Here comes McKissick for 2nd. A big mistake by Alex Bell, the 87, up to 2nd.
And now Bell slides way up the racetrack and loses all that momentum. So here comes Blake Reynolds in the 3 to the inside to take over that 3rd position. McKissick has solidly got control of P2, and then Bell finds a hole in between Blake Reynolds and Lucas Cram, so he'll get back in line, but not before he slides back to 4th.
And now this is where some of the damage might come in a little bit with the lost amount of momentum and the temperatures in dirty air. This could get tight. Bell still able to send it hard on corner entry. Just can't get underneath the 3 at the moment. Lucas Cram is getting very dicey behind him, though, with Jimmy Mullis. I don't think anyone's going to be patient behind him to get around the damaged race car.
I have to believe you're probably right, and especially when we consider that Briar LaPrade's turning some excellent lap times. He's been low 29.2s the entire way on this green flag run, and last time by had one of the fastest laps in the field. I believe 3rd fastest only behind Brandon McKissick and Nick Hughes in the 69, who runs in P7. All these cars up in the draft, by and large, have the same amount of speed. It's just a matter of where you can get the runs and the momentum, and it comes back to everything that we talked about in this aero package since it was introduced last season. This isn't necessarily about throttle control so much as it is where do you get back on the gas and how long can you hold your foot on the throttle until you get to the corner.
Yeah, and I think these drivers are playing a bit more smarter compared to the first two runs of this event so far, where they're not forcing things as aggressively so far on this racetrack at the moment. McKissick's had a couple opportunities where he could have tried to poke underneath the quad oval. He knows that LaPrade, though, might have not been able to respond quick enough to give space. He's been playing this okay, and now those two have a bit of distance. It's the matter, though, of how long do you stay patient, though, if you're in that line and have momentum. McKissick this time really backed up the field.
And it looks like Blake Reynolds got tight in the middle of the corner, and that opened the door for Alex Bell to come to his inside and potentially take over the third spot. Just behind them, Jimmy Mullis has found the inside of the 44 of Lucas Cram and is looking to jump up into the top 5 for the first time since that incident with Braxton DeWeese earlier on that cleaned out his teammate Zach Novak.
Yeah, he has quietly still been able to get through. He was able to get by at least 5 cars before getting to here. It's just like he's reached a brick wall, though, of momentum. Able to pass by the driver in order to tires and Lucas Cram, but it might be challenging with that damage to be able to get by Reynolds, Bell, and the rest of the drivers to have a shot at the podium.
Could be very tricky, could be very, very interesting to see how it plays out. Reynolds looks like he's got some momentum and is now looking to the inside of Alex Bell to try and get the third spot. We know that Bell's got a lot of nose damage there. Reynolds has a little bit too, as does Jimmy Mullis in the 46, but that's not stopping either of them from trying to make the move. And the 15 voluntarily slid up high to get a good run off the corner. I almost thought he opened up the door to Blake Reynolds, and now Bell goes down to the bottom to block, so you know he's worried about that 3 in the rearview mirror because he just dropped 3 lanes to block him coming off the corner.
Yeah, he knows that as soon as he loses that line again, James, pardon me, he will fall back potentially all the way back to behind the 44. But the way these drivers are lifting on corner entry, some of the more aggressive drivers at the start of this run, James, are really starting to plow tight. The ones who have been conservative are the ones who are starting to get good momentum to try and make moves such as we've seen into turn 3.
Blake Reynolds almost lost enough momentum to draw Jimmy Mullis even alongside that number 3 machine. Instead, they'll keep it all in one piece for the moment, but the 46 now fighting the 3, and it's the Coke Energy car versus the Coca-Cola car racing for P4. Both of them trying to figure out how to clear Alex Bell, and as you bring up the point of maybe some of these drivers in the back trying to save tires, what do you do if you're a Steve Durham or a Nick Hughes or Roger Gregory? All 3 of those drivers haven't really made much of an appearance at the front yet, but have they just been saving their equipment to make a run towards the end of this race, Justin? That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah, that's the major question right now. Taking a look at some of the lap times, they have been near dead even, if not a tenth quicker, getting the most amount of draft out of everybody. So I think they've been able to play this very well at the back end of the field. It's going to be very difficult to get to the lead, have to note, though, to be able to get by 6 cars. It's not any easy feat. But it would make it easier for them to be able to get to the bottom of the racetrack in 1 and 2, to carry that all-important momentum to be able to go full throttle in 3 and 4 as things get dicey in 1 and 2.
Blake Reynolds just went through the grass again and got into Alex Bell one more time, and he finally uprooted the 15, but also opened up the door for Jimmy Mullis to come underneath the 3 and take over the 3rd spot for himself. So I guess Reynolds accomplished what he wanted to in some sense, but he also is going to give up that 3rd position in order to get Bell out of the way.
Yeah, that's not the smartest of moves, have to say, from Blake Reynolds. That is over-aggression there to try and cycle with somebody with significant damage. And now he's got to work with Mullis, which I don't know if he realizes this. Still has a little bit of nose damage on his race car, remember, since he had to put on a brand new hood. From that move alone, they have already lost 3/4 in the past lap and a half.
They can get regrouped and get in the chain. They might have a chance to try and run down Brandon McKissick or Brian LaPrade, but in both cases, LaPrade and McKissick have been setting the fast laps here. Last time by, LaPrade the quickest by about 5 to 7 100ths of a second. So speed there. Certainly not in the tenths, but certainly enough for Brian LaPrade to maintain this lead. He might just have the best car on track when it matters the most.
Yeah, especially since he's got clean air, it's going to be easier for him to run on the long run here. If you've been fighting side by side or have been in dirty air much of this run, you're going to be struggling on corner entry potentially for part of this racetrack. So Brian LaPrade took the lead at the right moment at the right time, and because everyone else was busy fighting each other, he was able to save a little bit better than everybody else. He's going to be one of those drivers who hopes this stays green. There's a chance he can break away and break the toe of the draft here as long as he keeps the pace up.
Already out in front by almost half a second over Brandon McKissick, who is continuing to slip back into the clutches of Jimmy Mullis and Blake Reynolds and company, as Mullis has got a rearview mirror full of that number 3 machine. They haven't tried to go to war with each other yet, so far as the position goes, because all the momentum here is focused on trying to catch Brandon McKissick. But I think Mullis might have clipped the apron that last time by. He slid up the track like that car got tight on corner exit, nearly opened the door for Blake Reynolds to make a move down to the inside.
Yes, indeed. He just barely nixed it a little bit. And that's been some of the major mistakes for some of these competitors. Give a shout out though to Lucas Cram, who's done a good job on 4 lap older tires to be able to still hang in inside the top 5. Yes, it's going to hurt him a little bit more in the next 5-10 laps or so, but he's done an efficient job of maintaining pace and saving the tires to equalize them compared to his competitors, who are still insistent on trying to bump draft, and Coca-Cola powered their way to the front.
Coca-Cola Power. No. We have Jimmy in this race. Therefore, it's not Coca-Cola Power. It's Coca-Cola Energy that they're trying to work with. And at this point, it doesn't really look like it's doing all that much because Mullis was actually slower than Brandon McKissick. Lost a tenth to the 87 that last time by, so it might take a little bit more than just some of that Coke Power before you actually get somewhere with this.
I think it's the damage that's causing this again for Mullis's car, because we've seen that he had no hood. We've seen he's got scrapes on the top of the race car. I think that's really killing him now that he's lost a lot of the suck up from the back end of Brandon McKissick. So this is now a situation where if I'm Reynolds, I think it's more in his interest to actually pass by him, because I think Reynolds has a cleaner car and a faster car at this point than the 46 he's just been content of riding, while the top 2 have ran away. There's the move down the backstretch.
As you say, he's content on riding. I think he's not content anymore. Here comes the 3 of Blake Reynolds. Clears Jimmy Mullis on the inside. And the 3 car now goes up to P3. He's got about 5-6 tenths of a second to work to try and claw back the 87 of Brandon McKissick. And then once you get to McKissick, it's about another half a second up to the 19 of Brian LaPrade leading this race. So there's still some time for Reynolds to get it done, but not all that much. They're beginning to run out of it. 13 laps, 12 and a half laps to go actually as they come down the backstretch.
He's still within the draft. That's the positive thing. I think he might be able to maybe reel in McKissick. The problem is now it's going to be, now you're at the point of the run where the tires are going to start getting to where it'll take multiple laps to set up a pass. The aero push is going to really start to make drivers a little bit tight once they get within about 2 to 3 car lengths. It's going to be very difficult for these drivers to pass if this race goes green. It's just become that type of race as 4th is side by side.
4th is side by side. Jimmy Mullis now alongside Lucas Graham of the 44. He's done a brilliant job of maintaining the rubber on his Ford Mustang since he went back green flag racing. Remember, his tires are 7 laps older than everyone else's, and he's been able to jump back up into 4th after sliding back a little bit on that restart. So it suggests to me that Graham's done a very nice job of saving his equipment until the end. He may be able to gain a few spots here before we take the checkered flag at about 10 laps.
Yeah, if he did push up the racetrack in the 2nd lap of this run, I'm curious to see where if he'd be still up inside the top 2 right now, the way he's been driving, because he's still got a good enough pace to be near even to the race leaders. It's just he lost that bottom early and just has not been able to regain any of the track position since he tried to stay out on warm tires instead of hitting for cold tires and being stuck in the dirty air at the time.
Not a bad idea in and of itself when you lay it out that way, JP. Is LaPrade still in front by McKissick, who's cut that gap down a little bit. It's now down to 0.4 of a second from the 5, but McKissick needs more, and he's running out of time to do it. Within the final 10 laps here at Texas Motor Speedway in round 6 of the Esports Racing League. Meanwhile, really good battle with Cram, Bell, and Hughes. That's 4th, 5th, 6th. They're all right on top of one another, and here comes Nick Hughes to the inside of the 15 machine before he tucks back in line to try and get the draft going into turn 3.
Glad you brought up Hughes, because that Menards colored machine, that's a Johns Manville car specifically, he's been quietly moving his way through the back part of this pack. He was able to get by Steve Durham about 5-10 laps ago. He's now gone by Jimmy Mullis as his car's fallen off in the long run. There's a chance he might be able to steal away a top 5 very comfortably here, because Bell and his damaged race car is starting to really fall off. He's been one of the drivers who was saving before we talked about, and now he's one of the fastest cars on the track as a result.
Might not necessarily have the time to go get the lead, but maybe a time to get a few more positions as we look at the lead here. McKissick is reeling in LaPrade a little bit. It's now down to 0.3 of a second, but he'll need a little bit more. He may get to the rear bumper of LaPrade right at the end of this, but it's going to take some form of mistake for the 19 machine to open up any sort of opportunity for McKissick to try and get his first victory in the ERL Premier Series in 2020.
Yeah, McKissick's doing a good job clawing him in about 1/10 of a second last time by. It's just one thing. McKissick, I think, is going to need to be able to manage the dirty air and quickly. Because as soon as he gets right about the distance he is right now, this car is going to get really tight in the corners. If he has to get off the gas too much and can't carry enough momentum on exit, he's going to lose all the time he gained. It's going to be like running into a wall of air, essentially, where it's going to make it hard to close the gap more than a few tenths.
Also of note here comes Nick Hughes in the 69, fighting the 15 of Alex Bell. He tried to pinch the 15 down on the apron and take away the momentum, but it wasn't enough. And here comes Bell to the inside of the 69. This is for the 5th and the 6th positions, a little bit further back, as Brian LaPrade now has 5 more laps to go to claim his second victory in as many weeks in Texas.
And Hughes trying the outside line this time. The damage slowing down Bell in the cleaner air. Yes, indeed. Hughes up to the top 5. And it took longer than he expected before. It was a checkup by Bell that allowed Mullis to get on by. Now, because the checkups that happened from the 15, Steve Durham is now in the conversation for a top 6. He's up to 7th. Keep an eye on Roger Gregory and Kyle Smalley. They're now in the fight for potential positions here because of all this battling going on amongst these drivers. They've also lost nearly 2 seconds to the rest of the leaders.
They've all jumped off here. They're having their own little great battle, but it's all well behind Lucas Cram, who just needs to bring it home to keep everything locked up. Meanwhile, McKissick now in the draft of the 19 machine. 3 laps to go at Texas. We may have a battle for the lead and the race win on our hands through 1 and 2.
Yeah, McKissick's done a good job using the speed down the straightaways with the draft to close the gap. The corners is going to be the major difference, though. Can he be able to let off the throttle well enough to carry the momentum forward? He's done a great job in doing it in 3 and 4 especially. I think there's a chance he might be able to make one pass. He'll have one chance to take the lead. 2 laps to go.
One more opportunity here as we thank Anthony Alfredo for the raid, and we see what happens in the final 2 laps at Homestead, Miami, as Brian LaPrade is trying to hang on and Brandon McKissick is trying to force the issue. Lap and a half to go at Texas.
McKissick still trying to close in. Another half a tenth closed in compared to last time around. Able to go full throttle. Car pushing up the racetrack. White flag coming out this time by from Texas Motor Speedway. And LaPrade now has to play defense.
1 lap to go. LaPrade with the block there to the inside. McKissick might have 1 shot down the back and 1 shot in 3 and 4.
Here comes the... McKissick tries to go down to block on the bottom side. Able to hold up the 87. McKissick forced to burp the throttle. 1 last chance off the corner.
Oh, he got it in LaPrade. He turns LaPrade coming out of turn 4. And Brandon McKissick is going to slow down. And Blake Reynolds, I think, might have snuck that at the end. Blake Reynolds in the 3 machine takes advantage of the contact between Brandon McKissick and Brian LaPrade to win his home race and win the ERL Premier Series at Texas Motor Speedway. We didn't expect a wild finish like that, Justin Freeze, but it all completely unraveled out of turn 4 as McKissick got into Brian LaPrade, and those two both slowed up, and in the process, Blake Reynolds was able to run them down from about a second back and took advantage of everything to get around both of them, split the middle, and come through for the race win.
That is absolutely unbelievable. Reynolds just absolutely lucked his way into the checkered flag. Have to say, my goodness, I don't think he expected this one. I don't think either of us expected that. But it was just a matter, though, James, of LaPrade was slipping up the racetrack. McKissick was trying to get to the bottom, set himself up for a drag race to the stripe. I don't think he meant to get into him. It's just a matter of that he just had too much momentum and didn't want to lift. If the 87 lifted, he would have lost this race either way.
I don't even think it's a matter of lifting. I think it's just a matter of you're racing on the last lap.
Yeah.
The momentum, no matter what happens, it doesn't matter whether or not you're going to get into a guy or not. Now, I think the interesting thing from my end is I look back at the replay, I would have thought that Pryor would have tried to maybe drag the brake just a little bit on corner exit to lock down that bottom lane and force McKissick to really move him up the racetrack. But instead, he just carried his momentum for the most part and ended up sort of hanging in that middle high group, exactly where you don't want to be, because it gave McKissick the opportunity to get to that left rear quarter panel. That's what sent LaPrade sideways to begin with and opened up the opportunity for Reynolds to get past both of them in the first place.
Yeah, that was absolute insanity, have to say again. But man, oh man, Reynolds just took the opportunity to cut through the open needle and just jumped on through to take that checker flag. My goodness, what a way to take home a victory.
And as we take a look at the full field rundown, it is Blake Reynolds. The Texan wins in Texas. Something fitting about that, I think, as Brandon McKissick ends up in second and Brian LaPrade finishes third after leading just about all the second half of this race. Lucas Cram in the 44 finishes in the 4th spot. Great job managing the tires for the 44. He finished this race on a 44-lap run on those Goodyear Eagles, incidentally. So perfect numerology there. The 69 of Nick Hughes comes home in 5th. 6th was the 15 of Alex Bell. Steve Durham finished in the 7th position. 8th went to Jimmy Mullis. Roger Gregory finished in the 9th spot. And 10th was the 42 of Kyle Smollett.
Alec Chamberlain had a good fight with Austin Craven for 11 and 12. Chamberlain came up on top in that battle. Craven came home as the last driver outside of Greg McConey on the lead lap. The rest of the drivers finished 1 lap down or more. Nicholson had to come down for damage repair, finishing 14th with Crit Motorsports Machine. 15th, Ryan Kendrick. Kobe Wells in 16th. Anthony Alfredo finished 32 laps down in 17th. Andrew Ramos finished in 18th. 19th, John Midget. Braxton Deweese 20th. And Zach Novak was the first overall DNF tonight. He finished in 21st position after the big one in turn 1.
We turn our attention now to our top 3 interviews. We bring in tonight's winner, Blake Reynolds out of Houston, Texas. And Blake, I think you used the grass to make a pass during this race no less than 3 times. Tell us about that third one there right at the end of the race and what you saw unfold in front of you and how on earth you managed to snag this win.
Well, I was kind of mad at myself because I didn't feel like I did a good job that race. I kept getting in incidents, and that was actually my first race of the new Texas. I've spotted like 6 of these races so far, but never actually participated in one. So that was my first time. It was definitely an experience, but yeah, I did not do well on that last set of tires there. Pretty sure I wore off the right front. Let me check. Yeah, actually I wore off the right rear. Well, that might have been from my burnout. Who knows? But yeah, I didn't feel like I did a good job. And then out of 4, I was gonna settle for 3rd, gonna come in for my interview, just say I enjoyed the race, and then they crashed in front of me and I won. How about that?
How about that? And how about your first go at the new Texas? Spotting obviously gave you a little bit of a background on how it races compared to the old Texas, but what did you notice driving this track, and how does it compare to the scan of Texas that was first put into iRacing some 11 years ago?
Well, I haven't had to block this much in a race since Talladega or Daytona or something like that. But yeah, just 3 and 4 being, flat out for most of the run there. It's very different than before. Well, I guess, I don't know. The tires aren't as abrasive in 3 and 4, I guess. In 1 and 2, it's definitely a challenge to, and almost a struggle, I would say, to really get back to the gas, find your braking point. I didn't figure out my braking point till I was sitting there bump trapped in Jimmy. That was the first time in the race I figured out my braking point. So I'll thank Jimmy for that. And then that allowed me to kind of even the pace of the leaders. And it's just very different than before.
Very different, very unique, and I think by comparison. And I think there has to be something here. We mentioned it a little bit on the broadcast, but you are a native Texan. You pick up the victory at your home track. That has to make this one just a little bit sweeter than most of them, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And even at the old Texas, I sucked here. I just could not pull, I could run good, just couldn't get that finish.
But now you've got the finish, you've got the win, and you've got a lot of folks who help you make it happen, Blake. So take a moment to say your thank yous, give your shout outs, and let the people know who's behind this number 3 car.
Sure thing. In the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series, I drive the Coca-Cola Chevrolet for Team Dillon Esports, and we've also got partners in StockX, Beneath, Sparco, Real Trees on the bumper, and I think there's a Total Advantage logo on the quarter panel there. But yeah, and of course Austin Dillon and Austin Craven for putting that all together and just being the cool guys that they are and allowing me to do what I do.
Well, Blake, congratulations on your victory tonight at Texas. Thanks so much for the time, and we look forward to seeing you next week when we head, I believe it might be Bristol.
All right. Thank you, James.
Blake Reynolds comes home P1. We turn our attention now to Brandon McKissick, who is with Justin Prince after finishing P2.
Crazy finish tonight. Brandon McKissick came between you and LaPrade coming off of turn 4. Reynolds, though, with the checker flag. Talk us through that final lap, trying to get the run of LaPrade, closing a 4/10 of a second gap in 10 laps.
Well, I started the run just trying to save tires so I could have something for them at the end, because I usually struggle to save tires at Texas, the new version of it. And coming to 5 to go, I decided to just go for it. And then I knew I wasn't going to get to him, but I got close to him on the last lap in turn 3. But I decided to not go low because he was walking down there. I didn't want to wreck him. And then he was sliding up out of 4 in the last lap, and I was trying to undercut him to maybe have a chance at going side by side to the line, but I accidentally got into his back bumper and wrecked us both, unfortunately. So not the way I wanted to get second, but yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting battle, to say the least, for tonight. But you mentioned wanting to save tires. How important was that, in your opinion, tonight? Because at the start of the race, everyone was looking like they were shredding them, trying to fight side by side for the lead.
Well, because of the shorter fuel tanks, it was likely that we were not going to make it on gas. Therefore, we had to split the run-up into like 22, 23 laps, meaning that saving was not going to be as important because the run was going to be quite a bit shorter. However, the last run was over 30 laps long, so that made saving tires extremely important to make sure that you had a piece at the end to try to fight for the lead, so you didn't burn your right front up and get tight with like 10 to go.
10-4 on that, but the next race goes to a track where your organization has had a history of strong performances, Bristol Motor Speedway. Your thoughts on Bristol?
I mean, I'm usually hit or miss at Bristol. I think it's a very fun track. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think we'll put on an exciting show for you guys at that track. You can run the top, the middle. There's definitely options you can choose, while tires can still become important in the longer runs, so it should be an interesting race.
Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
You guys for broadcasting, Anthony Alfredo for putting the lead together, and also my friends at Nexus Esports. And
congratulations on the second place finish tonight, Brandon.
Thank you.
That was Brandon McKissick coming home second tonight. James, over to you.
With Briar LaPrade, who finishes P3, and Briar, I figured you wanted to be here in different circumstances, and it almost ended up playing out that way. Just take us through what happened on that last lap from your perspective.
Well, I knew I had to block the bottom there. There was just no way. I felt like I could have won that race unless I had held onto the bottom there. But yeah, I don't think Brandon meant to turn me there, obviously. Like, I think he would want a cleaner finish, but I got my win last week, so I was happy with that. It's fine for finishing third this week. Wish we could have gone back to back, but yeah, it just got into me there, and we went for a ride and ended up getting third still. So I guess that's good. I can take that.
You end up coming home with another podium finish and good momentum going into Thunder Valley next week. Bristol, have you had a chance to get some laps down there, and do you have a sense of what we should expect when we get to there next Wednesday night?
No, I have yet to turn some laps. This is my first race on some new pedals that I got. I got some V3s from Fanatec. But yeah, they felt good, so hopefully can burn some laps at Bristol on these new pedals, and hopefully run up front next week, and hopefully, better result, obviously, but yeah, we'll see.
And as always, Brian, I know there are a lot of people that make it happen for you, so who do you need to thank for making it possible?
Of course, Ledford Billiard Supply for sponsoring me. Check them out at ledfordbilliardsupply.com. And JDR Graphics for the beautiful paint scheme. Go and check them out at jdrgraphics.com.
Well, Brian, congratulations on your podium finish. Thanks as always for the time, and we look forward to seeing you next week in Thunder Valley.
Thank you guys. Later.
We turn our attention now to Bristol Motor Speedway. Next week, Justin Prince, we head to Tennessee for our first short track race of the season, and I figure if the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series event last night was any indication, madness should be what we see more often than not there.
Yeah, especially with the craziness there and low downforce, and as talked about, fuel limited talk into tonight. 70%, for example, was at Texas Motor Speedway this evening to factor in a potential pit stop. But another thing to factor in too that can add to the craziness complication, the points lead separated by 3 total points between the top 3, Mullis, LaPrade, and Bell. In other words, if any of them make a mistake or get stuck in any sort of big one at Bristol Motor Speedway next race, that can cause absolute pandemonium for who can come away with the championship as we approach the midway point of the season.
Could be lots of pandemonium coming into Bristol and coming out of Bristol as well, as we will be there 7:40 p.m. next Tuesday night, April 8th on your calendars if you want to mark it down for action from Bristol Motor Speedway. Round 7 of the ERL Premier Series will be there. But before we even get to next Wednesday night, we're not done tonight at Podium Esports. If you head on over to the Podium Esports Twitch channel, which you'll find linked in the chat, and can head on to, if you go punch in twitch.tv/Podium Esports in your URL. At 9 p.m., it'll be round 3 of the Cars Esports Tour. The official esports competition of the Solid Rock Carrier Cars Tour will come to you from Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola, Florida. Some of the big names of the Cars Tour will be in play. Lane Riggs going to be back for another run in the late model stocks, and Brandon Pierce is set to make his debut. Driver for Lead Podium Performance, going to be racing in that fabled number 2 machine, so we'll see what Brandon can do when we get to Five Flags here at the top of the hour. So head on over to twitch.tv/Podium Esports in just a little bit, but for now, we want to say thank you all for watching Podium Esports coverage of the Esports Premier League from Texas Motor Speedway. For Gary Sexton and John Theodore, Podium Esports, for my colleague in the booth, Justin Prince, and for tonight's producer, Ryan Bauer, I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thanks so much once again for watching tonight's broadcast of the ERL Premier Series from Texas. We'll see you at the top of the hour on the Podium Esports Twitch channel for Cars Esports Tour action from Five Flags Speedway.